Picking a faction for your character to support in a video game is a big decision. The world you play in can be inhabited by a variety of different groups and organizations, and joining one over others can completely change how you experience the story. In some cases, a faction you might decide to choose might seem like one thing at a first glance, and then turn out to be something completely different. More specifically, a faction that poses as the good guys is secretly full of evil villains. You won't know this going in, but the do-gooders and heroes your character allies themselves with will turn out to be monsters, traitors, or a conspiracy of fanatics ready to unleash true hell upon the world. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 good video game factions that are secretly evil. Number 10. The Loyalists, Dishonored. The Loyalist Conspiracy, or the Loyalists for short, is a group from the original Dishonored that's dedicated to helping Corvo rescue the Empress's daughter, Emily, and reinstate her on the throne. The conspiracy eventually betrays Corvo to turn Emily into a political puppet and therefore put themselves in charge, becoming the antagonist of the third act of the game. But if you pay close attention to the various hints left throughout the world, you can actually figure out that the Loyalists are not the humble servants they claim to be way earlier. If you use the heart on the Loyalist leader, Admiral Havelock, it will reveal to you some secrets about his past. The heart will first tell you that he used to be a whale hunter who killed the creatures for greed and pleasure, and then that he was a mutineer who, contrary to the official story, defected from the Navy after the Empress's death, not because of being outraged by the assassination, but to attempt to seize control over the military, further alluding to his true motive. Havelock and his buddies were setting you up from the get-go, and it was staring you in the face the whole time. Number 9. The Golden Path, Far Cry 4. Most Far Cry games feature sympathetic villains who, despite their cruelty and sadistic tendencies, have some good reason to do the things they do. Far Cry 4 is no different in this regard from Pagan Min, but it also does something extra by making its heroes, the Golden Path, the game's secret true bad guys. The Golden Path is Kyrat's rebel faction, run by Sabal and Amita, a deeply spiritual traditionalist and a progressive freedom fighter, respectively. Their idealistic views and connection to your character's father make their group seem like the only hope for Kyrat's freedom. But once they manage to dethrone the dictator Pagan Min with your help, their true colors begin to shine. Not only do both leaders ask you to assassinate the other to secure all power for themselves, they use this power to exploit their country. If you side with Sabal, the man and his warriors turn Kyrat into a theocratic and intolerant dictatorship. Amita, on the other hand, becomes an oppressive criminal who uses slavery and child labor to peddle drugs out of the country. When the Golden Path said they fought for freedom, what they meant was the freedom to let their leaders do as they please. Number 8. Fireflies, The Last of Us. The Fireflies are an organization of rebels in the Last of Us universe that tries to liberate the United States from Fedra, the remnants of the military controlling all major cities in the country after the outbreak. Now, the main reason most people would consider the Fireflies to be the game's bad guys is because of the final act, where they attempt to kill Ellie in order to find the cure for cordyceps. However, aside from that, their mission to free people from Fedra's oppression seems noble, and even their decision to sacrifice Ellie feels justified given what's at stake. Except the Fireflies are actually a terrible organization. Throughout the game, you learn through conversation, notes, and even direct experience that the Fireflies aren't any better than their enemies. The settlements that they liberate usually only replace one tyrannical power for another, only more bloodthirsty and disorganized. Their wars just make the US wasteland more chaotic, not free, and whenever they win, bloodshed and terror follow. So if you felt bad about helping Joel blast his way through their members in the final sequence in part 1, just know that you are probably doing some settlements under Firefly control a big favor. Number 7. The Ironhand Gnomes, Baldur's Gate 3. As far as fantasy races go, Baldur's Gate 3's gnomes have to be the most chaotic, unhinged, and unstable people. Each gnome you meet in the game is either an eccentric inventor or someone who's clearly going through something. But despite this, you wouldn't really accuse them of being capable of committing mass genocides. And yet, that's exactly what happens with the Ironhand Gnomes. The Ironhand clan is a family of gnomes that your party encounters throughout all 3 acts of the game, usually as victims of the Absolute, getting tortured, enslaved, and killed off by the cultists, which makes them somewhat sympathetic. All of that changes, however, once you reach Act 3 of the game, and the gnomes' leader, Wulbren, reveals that the gnomes want to take revenge on another oppressed gnome clan that drove them out of Baldur's Gate. To accomplish this goal, the Ironhands aim to detonate a devastating bomb that will kill hundreds of innocents. If that doesn't already sound bad, the reason the Ironhands were exiled in the first place was because they used to be allied with Saravok, the evil spawn of the god of murder Baal. They might be small and unlucky, but they're real wolves in gnome clothing. Number 6. Followers of the Apocalypse, Fallout New Vegas. Most factions in Fallout New Vegas come in different shades of ethical grey, but if players had to pick one objectively good faction, many would choose the Followers of the Apocalypse, an organization comprised of doctors and scientists dedicated to improving the quality of life in the Wasteland. Their idealistic goals and genuine intentions make them seem like true saints amidst chaos and darkness, but their past operations in Nevada are a tale of how the noblest of people can in fact be the source of the greatest evil, when their ambitions are combined with inaction and irresponsibility. Some of the worst disasters in New Vegas are as a result of the followers' improvements. Caesar, the Legion's founder, learned how to create his army of raiders by studying to become a follower, and the Khan's gang learned how to manufacture dangerous drugs on a mass scale after the followers attempted to teach them the basics of medicine. The followers' efforts, for all their good intentions, tend to lead to disasters, as they're quick to back out of their missions when things go south, and then they refuse to solve or acknowledge the issues. Sometimes the greatest evil is inaction in the face of disaster, especially if you're the one who created it. Number 5. Alliance, World of Warcraft. Over the years, World of Warcraft's writers have devolved the Horde into cartoonishly evil villains while turning humans and the Alliance into the perfect good guys. While the new war chiefs of the Horde commit every war crime under the sun, the Alliance acts as the voice of reason and compassion in Azeroth. Well, that is, except under the surface, they aren't the good Samaritans the main story makes them out to be. Their noble faction holds a rather malicious intent that could completely outdo even the Horde's bombings and raids should it come to fruition. The thing is that over the years of suffering the Horde and experiencing many tragedies at the faction's hands, the Alliance leaders secretly want to eradicate all of the Horde races once and for all. The grudges they developed have grown to the extreme, creating a wave of genocidal tendencies within the faction. In fact, some leading voices within the humans' official church and military want to go as far as to eradicate all races for the sake of their people's safety, including their own allies. Obviously, not all Alliance members share this sentiment, especially the latter one, but if you thought the faction was all knights in shining armor, the lore is a little more complicated than that. Number 4. The Dalish Elves, Dragon Age Origins. In the world of Dragon Age Origins, most elves live in poverty, oppressed by the humans who kept them enslaved for as long as they can remember. The only exception to this is the Dalish elves, who manage to escape their human oppressors and live as traveling tribes, following the teachings of their ancestors. Now, all of that said, the Dalish aren't an innocent group, which you can discover when your warden comes to help them with the curse of lycanthropy in their camp. In the mission, you discover that the werewolves that attack the Dalish are a creation of the elves' keeper Zathrian, who centuries ago turned some humans into monsters as revenge for crimes against his tribe. The werewolves attacking the elves are the men's descendants, who had nothing to do with the events and spread the curse to the Dalish to force Zathrian to reverse it. However, the pride and hatred of Zathrian's people make him refuse to lift the curse, even if it means the death of his own kin. When you begin the quest, you think the elves are the victims, but when you finish it, you realize they were behind everything that went wrong in their forest the entire time. Number 3. Colorado Springs, Wasteland 3. The story of Wasteland 3, the 2020 post-apocalyptic RPG, follows a group of rangers from Arizona as they attempt to secure an alliance with the leader and liberator of Colorado Springs, called the Patriarch. Given his status, his past accomplishments, and the fact that he's willing to help your people, you're led to believe that the Patriarch's faction is the only beacon of hope in the freezing Colorado wasteland. However, as you progress through the story and complete some side missions, you uncover that the springs are only nice on the surface. Following the clues given to you by a fellow ranger, you can discover that the peace and success of the Patriarch and his city are built on the backs of slaves and victims of war. In order to prevent various raider bands from attacking Colorado Springs, the Patriarch has made a deal with them. He willingly lets the bandits terrorize other settlements without interfering, and as a bonus, he provides them with free slaves in the form of undesirables from his city. The guards and influential families in Colorado secretly help him accomplish getting the goods out of town. So if you thought you could team up with the Patriarch guilt-free, you probably want to think again. Number 2, the Minutemen, Fallout 4. Fallout 4's Minutemen are the definition of the Commonwealth's good guys. Their faction's whole purpose is to show up and save people from danger and solve their problems, which is why so many Fallout players consider them to be the boring goody two-shoes faction. However, what most people don't realize is that this is what the Minutemen are like after their collapse. Once Preston makes you their new general and helps you rebuild the faction into the settlement-marking empire you see in the game. The past iteration of the faction, however, was something completely different. When you visit Quincy, the town Preston flees from in the beginning of the game, you get a glimpse into the corrupt past of his people. Following notes and context clues, you learn that Quincy was under attack by the Gunners. The town called the Minutemen for help, but instead of helping, their leaders decided to collaborate with the Raiders in order to get a share of the spoils, even helping them kill all the innocents along the way. Prior to their demise, the Minutemen were full of corrupt and exploitative people, so if they have any good reputation after you take the reins, it's mostly just because of you. Number 1, the Companions, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The Companions are a warrior guild in Skyrim, and your go-to group for when you're playing a melee fighter character. Or any character, because if you played Skyrim, you know it doesn't matter what build you're going for, you become king of every guild in town. The people of Skyrim hold the Companions in high regard due to their history as the descendants of Ysgramor's original band of warriors that settled in the region. But the reality of their organization is much darker than that of noble Nords and heroes. The first and most obvious of the Companions' dark secrets is their werewolf curse, which they willingly pass down to their most esteemed members. Anyone who's finished the Companions' questline knows this and has seen the disregard with which Ayla treats you, hacking and slashing through the people of Whiterun on your first night of transformation. However, there are other reasons to believe the Companions are scumbags that aren't anything lofty like an ancient Daedric curse. Doing side quests for the guild and interacting with NPCs around Skyrim reveal that your noble friends are mostly just thugs. They're frequently hired to intimidate and extort people for wealthy individuals, and they don't seem to question anything so long as the coin is good. So much for upholding your ancestors' honor.